How about like in terms of other aspects of that, the market maturity then, in terms of, we've already spoken about the hardware getting better as well and those sorts of things, but in terms of actually producing this stuff, the cost of producing it, and then the actual act of distributing it out as well, obviously, like Alex, with getting your experience onto those many people that have those headsets at home and those sorts of things. How's that journey? Is that seamless yet for creatives? Has it got some way to go before it's mature?
Oh, I think it has a way to go because again, in our case, we have multiple use cases, right? When we talked about the museum insights panel, it was okay. Well, how can we bring this to museum environments or educational environments, right? So that a lot of that time is it's like a big elephant in the room. It just takes a little bit longer for them to turn and pivot, and so I think that is going to take some time to mature that segment, but also then the in-home stuff in its own right has its own challenges because you have people that say I've never seen this before. So what do I stand? Do I sit? I start to grab for a wall because I think I'm going to fall off a ladder. So it's these kind of things. I think that you have to explain it sometimes to people to say, well, hold on, here's the benefit. Here's why you should get on this now and not wait. And also, I think at the end of the day, this is a win-win-win scenario for everybody engaged because you're going to get more people showing up, for example, at your LBE location or at your museum, or you're going to have more people demoing it here and there. You're going to have people get absolutely blown away with it. And then on top of that, you're able to establish yourself as a footprint in your market, in your region, wherever you are in the world that exhibits this kind of content, be it on a headset or be it even on 8K projection now, which is getting quite popular as well. Especially here in the United States, you have a lot of museums around the country that are starting these 8K Van Gogh exhibits and these kind of things. It doesn't have to be, again, a headset. It can be a dome planetarium. It could be a 8K projection. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this, but still get people's feet wet with regards to what immersion is about versus traditional, just 2D linear stuff.
1,000%. In the same breath as lauding the advancements, those advancements often represent challenges, because if you think perceptually, like how many kids fresh out of art school right now have a laptop and a copy of Unreal Engine, and you look at the capabilities of where we're at with what's going on in Unreal right now and how photorealism has arrived, and then metahumans and the ability to literally sit in front of a single machine for as much time as you can stand, or however long it takes you based on your abilities to create a blank project file to a world-class immersive experience, right? For what cost? Perceptually zero. Buy some assets, maybe your man hours, which is up to you. But then the flip side of that is try to put it into post. And as I keep harping on, now we want to go up to 8K resolution. Okay, great. This is going to take 3 weeks on a offshore server farm to get this thing pressed out. And then to play right, you press it out and you're like, oh, they messed up the one thing, or there's a glitch in the thing. You got to start over. It's a kill. It's a terrible headache on every project. I've always experienced this. And then Alex, you and I were talking in our pre-call about the going to film school versus going to business school to become a filmmaker, because the film school can teach you the techniques of how to craft a film, but they can't teach you what to do with it when you're done, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the other biggest element that's missing to gain market maturity in certainly the narrative space would be a distribution pipeline. Right. Where is this thing going to live? Being able to assess on the front end why whatever it costs you, how is that justified in terms of the potential ROI? And the potential ROI is so fractured around the planet right now. There are ways to make it happen, but unless you're juiced in, or you have a pipeline, or you've done it before, or you know the vendors, the specific people that you've got to kind of appeal to, or unless you're ready to just sort of relegate yourself to the festival route in hopes that then somebody who does know how to port it out everywhere around the world comes and picks it up, you could be left, with this beautiful project that barely anyone ever sees, with the only option being, okay, great, we're going to YouTube or Vimeo with it, which would be a sad reality if it was a really meaningful piece or a high cost experience. We at AIXR collectively, I think, are working to kind of help unify the distribution landscape, which is one of the reasons I'm so involved, is because I really want to see that happen for the community at large, for people to understand early on in the process what they're going to be able to do with this finished piece. Because even in the traditional film world, I think that's the number one mistake that filmmakers make, is they're like, we're going to make a movie, and it's like you go through all the process of development, finance, production, post, and then you're like, we made a movie, and it's like, now who wants to buy it? Well, they don't know the first thing about what's going to happen there, and that's not good for the investor that you convince that you're going to make a good movie, and then you get lost in the shuffle and get some half-ass distribution deal that you have to kind of settle for, as opposed to leveraging the relationships that you have in that realm at the beginning of the process, before you're sort of overly committed to the financials and the hardships that come with making a thing.
Yeah, absolutely right, Mark. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents, really. Can there be this scenario, like I mentioned before, the win-win scenario, where everybody can benefit? And if there's no financial use case to guarantee a benefit along that process, then it's really going to be hard to say that there's going to be a stable pipeline too towards that process. Because if that end user might never see something that was meant to be made, that's fantastic. But if the distribution channels aren't there and they can't justify, the investment that they have to put in from a marketing, PR standpoint, infrastructure, and so on, to be the next, i.e. Netflix of VR, for example, you have to be able to justify the dollars and cents from the big guys for them to say, yeah, okay, here's your pipeline, it's open. Otherwise, that's going to be the massive limiting factor, because I think the push on the other side, the interest levels there, the people are learning more about it. People are going to Best Buy, for example, here in the United States, and they're buying Oculus headsets. They were sold out, for quite some time, for example, here in the United States. So we know the demand is there. We know the interest is there, and it's only going to grow. But the thing is, again, is the pipeline there for the content? No different than when 4K first came online on a linear perspective. Oh, you had the Super Bowl in 4K, but that was it. Right? Because who had a 4K TV? Nobody. There was no bandwidth to even, exhibit 4K content, because there wasn't enough, internet speed. So these kind of things are going to, in my opinion, dictate what the ultimate stability of the market is going to be, and it's always going to come back down to money when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned sort of the festival circuit and things as well, Mark. We've seen lots of films come through for the VR awards over the years that have done extraordinarily well on the festival circuits, and they're amazing experiences, and I think very powerful, a lot of them. But I guess kind of like you said about the Mr. Robot one, right? That stuck with you after all these years, and you're like, I have no idea how we'd watch that now. So I guess seeing that, and I think you mentioned, right, everyone's has access and people are buying the Quest, and I know there's some competition coming up for it now. I think it's probably fair to say that Quest have taken a fairly tailored approach to the content on that device as well, so for that at home. So I guess that has some challenges there of, they want to make sure people coming into this have the best content on there, but actually how do you funnel that down, and is that process working?